welcome to my 6th Junk Journal podcast. We are here to answer your junk journal questions. This is Barbara. I'm your host today, and I'm so happy to have Luise here with me again, and as a brand new guest, Margarete Miller. So just in case you don't know who we are, let's make a quick introductory round. So my channel name, obviously you're here, you know, is 49 Dragonflies. I've had my channel for 4 years. I cover anything junk journal related. And I also have an online store for digital junk journal supplies. Margarete, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Margarete Miller. I love paper arts. I love junk journals, and I also love collage art. My favorite thing to do is to create a glue book out of a junk journal. So collage inside of a junk journal and have a creation that way. I've been on YouTube not too long, maybe about 4 years, probably the same as Barbara, and just have fun with it. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you so much, Margaret. Luise, I'm guessing most viewers that watch my channel watch your channel as well. But just in case there's 1 or 2 out there, would you like to introduce yourself?
1 or 2, yeah. My name is Luise Heinzl. My channel is called Junk Journal Art. I am having this channel for, I think, 5 years or so. And I'm trying to make junk journals with this little piece of art journaling. So I'm trying to mix those junk journal techniques with some artsy stuff. And I have an Etsy shop where I sell my own digital printable papers, as you perhaps know. And yeah, this is so much fun. And I have to say, I'm so happy, Barbara, that you've invited Margarete, because I'm always wanted to know how she is in reality. And now we are here together. That's so cool.
I'm so excited as well. I was so happy, Margarete, when you said yes. So thank you again, both of you, for being here today. Super excited for this. So just so you know how this is all organized, so Margarete asked her viewers on her channel to write down their most pressing junk journal questions. And we've gone through those, and we've also added a few questions that we haven't had time to go through in past episodes. But if you have more questions, please go check out the playlist linked underneath this video, because there's 5 more episodes. So maybe your question has already been answered. So I'd say let's jump right into it. And I think, Margaret, you have the first question for us.
I do. The first question I have was someone asking, what do you do with the inventory of junk journals space-wise? So in my case, what I do with my junk journals is I keep them on a shelf in the living room. I have this kind of, it looks like a kitchen, or not kitchen, it looks like a cabinet, a china hutch, basically. It's a hutch cabinet. It's from IKEA, and it's like a kitchen cabinet, and it has little doors, glass windows on the top, and I put them there. And I also have some in my living room. Luckily, my spouse allows me to stick some art things in the living room where everybody else can see them, and that's what I do with them.
Nice, very nice. Totally envious.
What do you guys do with them?
Luise, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I'm really happy that I'm living alone here in my house that has a caravan next to it. Yeah, I have the luck that I can store my journals wherever I want, but of course I have limited space. But I'm a lucky girl, because next to the screen, there's at the moment a really big mess from new furniture. And I also bought a cabinet from IKEA. I'm wondering if it's the same as you have. It's really beautiful. I can't show you that at the moment, because otherwise you would see the mess as well. That's not good. But it has glass windows where I want to showcase my journals, and also the journals that I've bought somewhere or that were gifted to me. And I think that's a really, really cool space to have. And Barbara, are you jealous?
Very, very jealous.
I'm so sorry.
So my dream scenario is just about what you two have said. The reality is a bit different at the moment. Hopefully this will change in the future. So my reality currently is that I have just a few on my living room shelf. The rest are well, actually, I have some in here in my cupboard. I have some on the other side of the room in a drawer. I have some in a cupboard in the hallway. But the biggest part is under my bed in boxes, in huge boxes.
Wow.
And I keep thinking I should declutter, but I can't. It's like these are all my babies. And even if I, at this point, think my first ones are just horrible, they're part of my journey. So I cannot let them go. Yeah. So I'm hoping that one day I will have a craft room. And it's not so much for the crafting. It's more to store my journals. Yeah. Yeah. Not only, but that's a big part of it. I just want to be able to display my journals just for myself, because they make me so happy, and it makes me so sad to have them disappearing in all parts of my flat. So yeah, one day this will happen.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good to have dreams, right?
Yeah.
But storing the journals below your bed gives you some nice dreams and more inspiration during the night.
Actually, they're under my hubby's side of the bed. So I wonder what his dreams are. Sometimes he wakes up screaming, so I don't know. But actually, this is a question I would like to ask my viewers as well. If you have a lot of junk journals, have you ever considered throwing any of them out for space reasons? Or do you have the same issue that I have, is that you just can't let go even if you don't have space? I would love to read about that.
I would also like to know people's experiences with gifting them or giving them, because I know that I have given some in the past to some of my relatives, and it wasn't a really good experience. They just didn't really know what to do with them, and they were a little bit uncomfortable, like, what am I supposed to do with this? And thank you, but yeah, it was kind of awkward. Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's it. I'm not giving any more junk journals to any of my relatives. They don't seem to get it. And I'd be curious to know what other people's reactions, experiences has been with this as well.
Right. I mean, I believe junk journals are most appreciated by other junk journal makers. Yeah. Because otherwise you just don't understand how much love and work and how much of your soul goes into something like this, and how much thought and dedication and time. I mean, they might think, yeah, it's pretty to look at, but yeah, what do I do with it? Right. I get it. Yeah, I think that was a good decision, Margarete. I'm sorry. Luise, have you gifted a junk journal yet?
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about this. This is a very sad story, because it was, I guess, I'm just thinking about this. The second journal I think I've made, or the third I've ever made, I made a really, really difficult cover by gluing rice on top of the cover to create a steampunk effect without any special or fancy texture paste or something like that. And I had this journal for a very long time. And then I met a woman who had cancer. And she said she has many recipes written by herself, and she wants to put them all into one book, but she don't know why, not why, how. And then I said, I will send you a journal where you can put everything in and where you can glue everything down. And yeah, then I've sent her the journal, and she used it. And then a few months later, when she has filled the whole journal, she has passed away. And yeah, that's the first journal that I've gifted. And it will always be a special thing for me, because yeah, this is a memory that I always have. And I think that's also a thing that makes junk journaling so special, because if you gift a journal, then you gift it to someone very special. And if this person uses it, then it's a special thing later. Yeah. And no matter if it's a short time that it's in use or a longer time, but I think it's always special. And yeah.
Obviously, she was very happy with it because she used it.
Yeah.
So that's also a very nice memory for you, I guess. Yeah. Aww. Luise, would you like to share the second question?
The next question is, how do you deal with comments that using printables is not a junk journal? For me, junk journal, so that is what the viewer said, for me, junk journal is a place that you can use anything you want. Maybe this is a personal definition, and it's what makes me love junk journaling so much. Margaret, I think you have the perfect answer to this, because you also have this special video that we've talked before we've recorded this, where you have these great definitions about junk journaling or junk journal, art journal, and glue book. And I think you have altered book as well in this video. And I told you how much I appreciate this video. Please tell us something about that, because this video is so clear and so wonderful. Please tell us something about it.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you got some use out of it and that you enjoyed it. It's people want to have a really clear definition in their mind, and then from that, it's hard to kind of have an open concept about what that is. And junk journals is one of those terms, one of those words that it's hard to define, because you have a general definition for it. Something that you used recycled, found materials, used things to create junk, a new journal. But in the case with the printables, well, that's new, first of all, and it's definitely not junk. So how do you define junk journal when, you're using these new materials? And as all of us who are creators of printables ourselves, we are doing this. We create these printables and we use them in junk journals. So maybe it's just a feeling of what is a junk journal. It's something that it invokes. It gets a response out of you. It's obviously putting a book together using papers that belong to you, that you have. And in my definition, it's perfectly fine to use, papers that are printables, because they do have that vintage feel or vintage inspired feeling that helps you to create, something that you like. So what do you think? What do you think, Luise?
I'm wondering what the feedback was when you made this definition in the video, because I think, as you said, often the people need such a definition to have like a road where they can walk on, and some tutorials that they can follow step by step in the beginning. I think that's totally okay. Mm-hmm. Which feedback did you get when you had that? I mean, you say I have a definition, but this definition is so open and so versatile. What did the people say when you said that in your video?
So I did research online first, of course, before I did the recording, because I wanted myself to have a dictionary definition, almost, what is a junk journal? Mm-hmm. And I wanted to hear from other book artists what their definition of a junk journal was. And the most basic definition I could find was that it was a book that you create using found or recycled materials. And that's the definition of a junk journal. Mm-hmm. Now, how we all interpret that is going to be different. So I think that's where the space is, where's the room to kind of, learn, figure out what your personal definition of what is a junk journal. I have not gotten any negative pushback from people saying, no, that's not the definition, or, I see it this way. So I think that most people are kind of, or at least us, those of us who are in the junk journaling community, we have a pretty good understanding of what we do. It's just trying to explain it to other people, or even, trying to explain it to your, closest family member. They're still, unless they do it themselves, they just don't really understand the concept of what it is. So I think we understand it quite well.
Yeah, and I think this point of recycling is also in the digital world a really special one, because, for example, I find an envelope that is falling apart. Why not scanning it and repairing it digitally so that everyone can use it, and that especially I can use it? Then I can, for example, frame the original, put it to my wall if it's important and special for me. And I always have this copy. I mean, sometimes I can't understand the problem of the people when they say that is not junk journaling. So I totally agree with your arguments. And I think, as you said, the people who are doing it are very open for all of those things. But the people, outside of this bubble are sometimes looking a little bit strange when you try to explain that.
Yeah, no wonder they're confused, because we have a hard time explaining it. I mean, I totally get it. Yeah, and I mean, I really think it's such a gray zone, because when I think, okay, if I just print out some digital papers, fold them in half and bind them, I would not say that's a junk journal. But as soon as I add at least one element from something I have from somewhere else, for me, then that makes it a junk journal. It just has to be one piece. If everything is new, I would not call it a junk journal. But I think the mix is great. And I think I used to have a more closed definition of junk journaling or junk journals. I think if you would have asked me this question 3 or 4 years ago, I would have probably said it needs to be at least, 90% real junk or recycled materials. But now, of course, I think also it changes with time. I think more and more creators are creating beautiful digitals. And it's so fun to combine those with vintage ephemera. Yeah. So, I think it's a definition that needs to evolve as this craft evolves as well.
Mm-hmm. But what would you say? Let me play a little scenario. I go outside and I find here on the campsite some food packages. I go to the trash can, I find an old book or something like that, and I'm taking everything that I've really found in the trash, putting that to my scanner, then to my Photoshop program, turning that into a digital printable, and you print that out on paper you were gifted, for example, or sometimes here on the campsite, and I think people that work in offices, for example, they have the same thing, that they get the copy paper for free. Or some people throw it away because an edge is broken or something like that. You can still use that. You can still put that into your printer. And if you would make such a journal out of this paper, everything is trash. That's a junk journal, isn't it?
Yes, for me, that would be a junk journal. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy that you see that like that, because I think when we use those digital elements, often it's trash. I mean, sometimes we get texture or some patterns out of trash. I mean, I do that. Just print fails, for example. Scan them in and you have a perfect overlay for your digital printable. And what's that? Normally you would throw that away and it would be trash, but for the printable, it's perfect.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Yep. What's your next question, Barbara?
Yes, I have a short one, but it's so loaded. How did you find your style? I think this is such an interesting and difficult question. I would actually say I have not found my style. I feel like I'm in the middle of my journey. I'm definitely not at the beginning, but I'm far, far, far from being at the end of this journey. And I don't think that this journey ever ends, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that the person that asked this question kind of is implying, like, how do you recognize your style? How do you know when you have your own style? And I always say you yourself are the last person to recognize that you have a style. The people around you will notice much sooner than you do, guaranteed. So if you're not sure, just ask someone around you if they could identify your creation from someone else's. That means you have a style. But the question, of course, is how do you find it? And my answer to that would be, it's like curating any kind of, let's say, collection. For example, if I take out my drawer of washi tape, that is a collection I have curated over the years. It's not final by far. But what has happened over the years, I've realized which ones do I enjoy using, which ones did I just buy at the beginning because they were so cute, but I never ended up using them. So with time, I got rid of a few. And maybe I bought a few new ones that fit my curated collection better. And that's exactly, I feel like, what we do in our journals. We, like, when we get into junk journaling, we try all these different things because we see so many things on YouTube, and we have so much inspiration. Usually we want to just try, or it was like that for me. I just wanted to try it all out. And I realized, what do I like and what don't I like? And more I can hone in on what are the type of things I like, what are the colors I like, what are the medias I like. And that's kind of how I pinpoint more and more what is my style, because that's then what I keep doing, and that's how it becomes recognizable that that's mine. That would be my feedback.
Yep.
Margaret, how about you?
I think that, just like you said, style, it changes over time. And I think that's super healthy, because if we do the same thing all the time, it would just be boring and we would get bored of our own work, right? So we're constantly looking for new things that stimulate us and that we find interesting, that we want to work on. And that means sometimes our style shifts just a little bit. But in general, my style is probably, very similar to yours in the respect that I love vintage things. I love layers. I love interesting things on paper. And that's, I guess, in general term, that's my style. Yeah. So what do you say, Luise?
Sorry, Marguerite, I just want to ask, how long would you say, or can you even define approximately how long did it take you to find your current style? That's a really difficult question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
It took definitely a couple of years, I would say, a couple of years. And I'm still learning my style. A couple of days ago or a couple of weeks ago, I came to the realization of what I don't like. And sometimes it's easier to figure out what you don't like than what you do like.
Yeah.
Vintage in Victorian, some of those old cards, there's always pictures of babies and kids. They use like a doll, like a baby to, hold up a spool of thread or, something for an advertisement. And I realized I hate babies in those advertisements. Babies and kids, they're just, those faces, they look so creepy, and it's like
Yeah.
So, and I realized I had this very strong feeling. I hate these. I will never use these in any of my junk journals or my collages. But, other people like them and they look for them, and they're collectible and they're interesting. So it's figuring out sometimes what you don't like that makes things clear for you.
Yes, totally. Luise, what about you?
Yeah. First of all, I have to say I hate children and people in general. So, but that's not so much, because before we started recording this, I saw a TikTok on this app where a woman said exactly what you said, but with my words. Do you know what I mean? I hate children in general. And I just thought about that because, yeah. But sometimes it's crazy. When you have a YouTube channel, then I guess some people who have a YouTube channel, that's not the answer to the question, I know, but they are in reality perhaps relatively shy or not so in the social world. I mean, I don't have real friends here around me. I have my main friends in the internet, and that's a little bit crazy sometimes. So sometimes I'm joking and I'm saying I hate children and people in general. Yeah. So the question. My answer is I think I also haven't found my style. And it's like Barbara said, it's changing, it's coming with the time, and especially other people can tell you if you have found your style and you are recognizing it at
you're last to recognize it. Yeah.
Thank you. And that's also the thing that I'm trying to do to realize it. I'm showing my projects to my best internet friends, so that are mainly 2 people. I know that's not the word, but if they say that is not you, they know me, then I know my project is not me. So that's not my style. Something is going wrong. That's one thing that I'm doing. And the other thing is I'm sometimes scrolling very fast through Instagram without reading the names. And then I'm stopping when the picture comes, but I can't read the name. And then I'm trying to guess who is the creator of this project. And if I can say, oh, that's Barbara or that's Marguerite or whoever, then I know this person obviously has found her style. And if other people can do that with my photos as well, yeah, then the circle is closed. I mean, photos are often a very clear thing to say that, because you often don't see those details on the first glance, but you see the whole thing with your phone as a frame around it. I think framing is also a good solution for finding your style. Put that thing to your wall and put another thing next to it and go away and see if you can see some similar things on those pieces. I think that helps a lot.
Interesting. I like that idea that using a different format to look a different lens, I guess you can say, to look at your art through a photograph or through an app. That's really interesting.
I'm just curious because, Luise, you said if those other two people on Instagram say that that's not you, or that they don't recognize your style, couldn't it be that your style is it's changing again? I mean, can you automatically say, no, that's not my style? Maybe you're evolving into that new style because you're trying new things.
That's a hard question. Really hard.
I'm sorry. I just want to get you to think about it, because I wouldn't automatically dismiss things because they don't look like everything else you're doing.
Yeah. I don't throw the project away when the people say that.
Yeah, I hope not.
That's not something where I can grow and learn something.
Yeah.
But I have the feeling, that's so hard to explain. Sometimes when for example, I have the project here on my desk, and I'm filming that with my camera here over the project. And I have my iPad there in the other corner, and I'm mirroring my screen. And I'm sitting here and looking into that direction where the screen is showing what I have here. Then it's far away. I can see the whole thing. And often I can see something is going wrong. It's shown on this piece from far away. But the problem is on my desk here. And it's in the detail. And when I change some details, the thing on my screen there is changing as well. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
Because the style is coming from details. Which stitching are you using? Often zigzag stitching or straight stitching or special embroidery things that are made by hand or whatever. Always walnut stain for distressing. I mean, change from vintage photo to walnut stain and your project is looking totally different. I mean, do you know what I mean? That can make such a big difference, but the point is in the detail. And when you look from far away, when you have changed the detail, then the project has changed and perhaps the style as well.
But then I would like to know, okay, when you see that your style has changed because of the photos you've sent someone, will you then change it, or will you explore that more?
You mean if the friend says put that here and that there?
No, I mean if the friend says this is not your style, your usual style.
Yeah, of course I will try to change it, because I mean, perhaps I should say that I'm sending the photo mainly in those cases where I think something is going wrong and it's not my style. I have a problem. And
that makes sense.
when I
Okay.
then I mean, when I'm satisfied with the project, I'm showing her, for example, my end project, and she says, "Oh, that's totally you." But when I have a problem and I say, "Ooh, telephone joker, please tell me what to do," then it can happen that she says, "That's not your style. Let's figure that out." And then sometimes I'm changing my arrangement of the collage or whatever I'm doing there. And in the end, often I'm finishing the project and then later on sending her the finished result. And my video is finished and everything, and I'm satisfied, and then I'm sending it to her, and then she says, in the most cases, now it's you. And this time in between, I think that's, this finding your style period.
Now I get it. Now it makes totally sense. Yeah. And I think it's very nice to hear from a popular YouTuber that they also get stuck. Like I get stuck sometimes, and I'm sure Margarete, you do as well. I just want our viewers to know that we don't just go like this and have the perfect layout. We have problems too, and we are lucky if we have someone that we can ask for advice. We're the same. I mean, none of us can just do it like that.
And one other thing that I'd like to point out, I think that we need to also keep in mind that time is one of the components that you need when you're creating art. So you need glue, you need papers, you need something to glue it on, you need, all of the things that create a junk journal, but you also need time. And sometimes you use that time to put something down and then to step away and give it some room to breathe or some space, and then come back to it a couple hours later or a day or the week later. Sometimes that period of rest, of time, allows you to look at it differently. And I think that's super, super important. We shouldn't just expect just work, done, next project, right? That's not enjoyable. And so time is very important to remember.
It's a lot of pressure when you have in your mind that you want to put out so many videos a week.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. Okay, shall we move on to the next question?
I think that's me.
I think that's you, yes.
So, when did you get into junk journals, and what was the first junk journal you saw? How did you get interested in journaling and collage? So I got into junk journals after I started to stay at home. I had a professional job. I was working as a technical writer, and then I started to stay home after I had children, and I wanted to do something at home, be creative. I started with sewing, and I realized that I hate sewing. So then I turned to paper crafts because I love paper, and I've discovered junk journaling. That was, thank goodness for YouTube, because it just opened the whole world for me. I don't remember what the first junk journal I saw, but I do know that there is an artist. Her name is Debbie Ann Parent. Her shop is Ephemera's Vintage Garden. She also makes YouTube videos, and she did one where she made the junk journal and then filled it with just things kind of in a colored theme. And it just really, really inspired me. And that was probably the first memorable junk journal experience I had, where I just pretty much watched it and then got up and did everything that I could to begin the process of gathering my materials, figuring out how to do it. So she was the one who really pushed, got me going, lit the fire, I should say. She lit the fire in my heart to begin with junk journaling. And yeah. What about you, Barbara?
I was actually previously into art journaling. I did some online courses, and by coincidence, I stumbled upon Jenny Belly, as I think many of us did many years ago. And I was so fascinated by her recycled materials and all the things she had. I mean, she had her own craft room, and I remember her looking through boxes and boxes of things she's collected, like a whole bunch of buttons and belt buckles, and I don't know, she had all these amazing things. My mind was absolutely blown, and I fell in love and have been so excited about it ever since. And yeah, so I don't remember, like you, Marguerite, I don't remember what exactly the first junk journal looked like, but it was just this whole experience of recycling paper and be able to put all this art in it and making your own books. And every free minute I had at that time, I was consumed with this subject and I was absolutely obsessed. Luise, how about you?
I'm well prepared for this podcast because I took the time scrolling back in my YouTube browsing thing, you know, where it shows which videos you have watched 5 years back or so.
No way.
Wow.
But
No.
remember which was the first junk journal I've ever seen, and I wanted to give a correct answer. So
Wow.
it must have been like this. So the first thing that I saw was not a junk journal, but a traveler's notebook, but in a very artsy way. But it had this pre-made insert that you can buy. So these blank pages. And in the end, when this woman had this finished, it was approximately like this. And then I thought, ooh, that's the right thing that I can take to my travel to Rome, because I was searching for something where I can put my memories in. And then the first junk journal video I saw approximately 2 weeks after I came back from Rome. That means the first junk journal I have ever seen is this one. And that's my, this is my first journal that I've made after this travel to Rome. And yeah, I think this is the first one.
Cool. That is so cool.
I had no idea it's a junk journal. When I made it, it was like, yeah, something like Traveler's Notebook. I had no idea what junk journal is at that time.
Very cool. Luise, you have a question, I think.
Is there an order to putting together your journal? Put the signatures together first, make your cover first, make all your ephemera first. Where do I begin? Barbara, I think that's the perfect question for you, because you had a video a few weeks ago. I think that was this journal that you've put together from your Happy Mail stuff and these children's book pages. And there you said you will first make the signatures to see how thick they will be and will make the cover. So normally you do it the other way around, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
what's your experience?
Okay. First of all, I think this question again is one where the viewer wants instructions, right? Like they want to know how to do it right. And I think we're all going to have to disappoint that viewer because I think there is no right way to do it. You do it in the way that works for you. I have done both, as Luise, as you pointed out, but I'm coming more and more to the realization that I prefer doing the signatures first and then putting in the ephemera, whether that's pre-made or I'm making the ephemera specifically for this journal. And then I will make the cover for it because I don't like this gator mouth situation. And that's what always happens. So many of my journals have that and I'm done with it. I mean, no, I'm not done with it. I still have one. That's not just journal for my junk journal snacks, which is just a monster. But if I can prevent it, I would like to prevent it. So that's why I've changed my order. I understand how beautiful it is to work in a journal when you have the cover already on it. It's just the feeling of creating in that beautiful journal. But then you always get the gator mouth. So I don't know, it's really tough. Luise, I'm so happy you have this video where you show where you split your journal in two and make the spine bigger. I will definitely be looking at that again because that's something I'm going to have to do with my planner very soon. But I think this is a struggle. I'm guessing this is a struggle that all junk journalers have. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think so. But I think I also found, I don't want to say a rule because the day after tomorrow, there's someone who says, no, Luise, that doesn't work. But I have something like a rule. So, goodness, where's the book that I had prepared for that? So if you take the journal like this, so here's the spine, obviously, and you press this down. And this is a soft cover now. It's not the very best example, but imagine this is a hardcover, and you press this down, and those both pieces of the cover are connected here. They are touching each other. Then it's normally not too thick in the beginning. So if you put something in there, it can grow approximately like this. So that's a rule that I'm always trying to have in mind, especially with hardcovers, that you press this down and then you have this triangle there. And normally if you don't put stones or whatever into the journal, then it should be enough space. I don't have any problems if I make journals for my shop, for example. If I do it like that, then later on, I still have the feeling when I put my embellishments in that I have something like this, for example, for my customer. And then they can also fill it until it's like this. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. So that's a rule that works for me, but yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much. I will keep that in mind next time. Margarete, how are your experiences on this subject?
I know that people like to have instructions and steps and do this and your junk journal is going to be beautiful and perfect. And as you said, that does not happen. I think that if you are thinking about your dream junk journal and you visualize the cover and you're dreaming about the cover and look and imagining the cover, then start with the cover. If that's where your heart is, then start with the cover. And same thing about the pages. If you are just in your mind seeing those pages, turning those pages, then work on the signatures. Do what you feel is inspiring you, is motivating you. Once you do several, then you start to learn and you figure out, what, maybe I better start with the signatures first, just to make sure that I don't have too many or too much. And then the cover goes after so that you can fit the cover for the, all that, you figure it out. Sometimes I do create the covers first, and then I will just make a smaller or thinner signatures to make it work for that project. So with experience, you just learn where to start and make it work. Yeah.
I think that's a great point, because I think some of the viewers are asking all these questions before even starting, because they're so overwhelmed with everything. They don't know where to start. Do I start with the cover or the signatures? But it's a process, and your process might change through experience. The thing is to start somewhere, and there's no right or wrong, whether you start with the cover or the ephemera or the pages. As you said, Margarete, you do whatever you have the most feeling for at the moment. And then you just see where it goes. Maybe next time you try it the other way around and you see what you enjoy more. So there is no instructions we can give you. You just have to jump into it and try it and be prepared to fail, whatever failing means. But it's not failing if you learn from it. Unfortunately, I don't have my first junk journals here, but you would be appalled. They're horrible, but they're great because they helped me to be where I am now. So I love them just the same. So you have to just be willing to make ugly journals at the beginning. They probably won't be ugly, but I think you have to be prepared for that and just accept it as part of your learning process and just embrace that. That would be my tip.
Totally agree.
Okay, shall we move on? Question number 6. I have another one. Have you ever, this is actually a good one to follow. Have you ever made a cover for a junk journal that you hated and it didn't go with the signatures? If so, what did you do? I thought about this for such a long time, and I honestly must say, I don't remember making one that I hated, because I don't finish it if I hate it. You know what I mean? Like I will work on it as long as it takes until I like it. So I'm never going to have a finished cover that I hate, because I wouldn't even have let it come that far. If this would happen for some weird reason, I'm always the first one to say we can fix anything in the junk journal. There's no reason to throw anything out. But I've been thinking about that. For covers, I think I might say if it's too much work to fix it, if you really hate it, it might be better just to throw it out, cut the signatures out if you've already put them in, and start over. It might create less anxiety and you have a fresh start. And maybe now you know better through this experience of what you hated, to make a better version. I think you don't always need to fix things. Maybe sometimes there is something you can't fix. I hate saying that, but for a cover, I kind of feel like maybe it's just not worth all the hassle to fix it, because the cover is just so much more than a junk journal page. I feel it's such a bigger deal, and you have to love it. Otherwise you won't love your journal. Yes, Luise, I can see the gears in your head turning.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you are saying. And I would like to add to your arguments that there are also some technical problems with overworking your cover. I mean, can be problems. If you, for example, have chosen a fabric that you totally don't like in the end, and you would put something on top, then it could happen that you can't open and close the journal anymore, especially if you put that fabric into the inside and you have this in this fold where the journal flips open and close. And if this piece there is too thick, then it can be you like the cover, but you can't open your journal anymore, and then you wouldn't have fun with it. So I'm like your opinion, better cut everything apart carefully and then make a new cover to avoid those technical problems. So sometimes I think that's the better idea.
Margarete, what do you think?
I think that all of us have journals that we like more than others, but I don't think there's any of them that we absolutely hate. But if I start something and start a cover that's not working or I don't like it, then for sure, I mean, I'll put it aside probably. And as I said, with time, I might feel differently about it. I come back to it. If I still hate it, then it'll go on the bottom of my pile and I probably won't touch it again. But it is such a good learning experience of why you didn't like it. What were the things about it that you just did not like? And then you just don't do that again in the future. So it's all just a learning experience and you just move on. So, yeah.
I think we have time for one last question. So Margarete, I think this is yours.
Okay. Just wondering if you make non-vintage themed junk journals and ephemera. Do you prefer to use original ephemera or copy it? I prefer to use originals. I prefer to use original old ephemera and not so old. I just like to use originals. Yes. Do I make non-vintage? I have one. I brought one sample. This one, I used a cover of a cracker box from a Japanese cracker box.
So cute.
And I sewed in about 3-4 signatures. It's all just weird stuff. It's like coloring book pages. I put a few little vintagey things, but not too many. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, here, just kind of like food things, just colors. I just wanted color. Here's a tea. This is probably from Slovakia, so you'll probably recognize this tikane.
Yeah.
Tea. So yeah, I mean, it's some stuff from when my kids were little. I have this bag, brown paper bag, just with when you clean off your paint brushes. This was fun. I enjoyed doing something like this. Here's my example of non-vintage. But the thing I like to think about is, again, it's another mental example. You can imagine if your grandmother or some relative from 50, 100 years ago created a scrapbook or a junk journal, what it would look like, because we like these things. We like these older images to play with them and to create. But imagine that somebody 100 years from now would find a book that you made of materials that were from our time, of this year. What would that look like? It would be fun to create a project where you're creating a junk journal using materials that are dated from our era right now. And then somebody in 100 years from now would find it and open it. What would it look like? So it's fun to use stuff that we have around us to create junk journals, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have any specific plans with that junk journal? Or do you just enjoyed making it for making it?
Yeah, that's pretty much the only one that I have done kind of in a modern style that I really like. I still just gravitate to the vintage stuff, you know. That's what I love. I love playing with those old papers. So I haven't done too many that are kind of modern, but I want to do more because I want to kind of experiment and play with it.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Luisa? You mentioned, like, you know, if, for example, if you see stuff, like you see things in the recycle bin or, you know, trash, you can pick it up and either scan it or, you know, use it. What do you do?
I think for all of my travel journals, I like to use original ephemera. For example, this tea package that you have shown, when I have a tea on my travel, then I take the package and put that later on as an original into my journal. All of those bills, for example, I make a copy because of this
Thermal paper. Is that the word?
paper. Yes, I think so. When you have that in the sun or too long in your journal, then it gets either black or white and the writing disappears. Then of those pieces, I make a copy and put that into my journal. So I like to use those original pieces from my travels. But I'm also on some kind of a mission or something like that, because I'm trying to bring junk journaling to the German community as well. So I make my videos in German and in English to try to get more German people into the community. Wow. And in Germany, and especially here in Austria, it's sometimes really, really hard to get those original pieces of ephemera. And those German-speaking people are sometimes so disappointed when they say, "Oh, I can't get this original piece or that thing in original state. I can't go to a flea market because my town has 5 people in it and there is no market," or something like that. And for those people, I think it's really, really cool to have those printables. And that's also why I like them, so that those people can also join junk journaling and that they can make their own stuff.
Accessibility, super important. Yeah,
I totally agree. And I love the mixture. I used to use pretty much only original ephemera, but since I've discovered all the fun printables, there's no stopping me. Like, I love the mixture. I don't think I would enjoy having only the printables, but having that mixture, I think, is perfect. Because the printables add so many fun elements. I mean, there's such cute themes and designs. I mean, it's so hard to choose from. And I love what you said, Luise, about having access to ephemera you normally wouldn't have. Like, I'm lucky. I'm in Vienna. Obviously, I have a lot of access through flea markets and Goodwill and all these things. But for example, I also like the French ephemera, but I can't find the French ephemera here. But thankfully, there's some shops that have it. So it's very easy. And I love that I can use it multiple times. So I'm super grateful that is an option these days.
And I think it's perfectly fine to mix. I do that sometimes too. I use originals, and then, you know, if I see a spot or a place in my journal that does need something else that I don't have, I don't feel bad about using a printable, because it's continuing the feeling that I'm working to create in my journal. So it's a continuation. And so if I use originals plus printables together, I think it's perfectly fine.
And as I think it's Luise, you always said there is no junk journal police. So you put in your journal what you enjoy. That's the only rule I'd say there is.
Yep.
And sometimes, or I would say in the most cases, it's also cheaper to use printables, because you can over and over again try out different techniques. If there is a failure, then you can throw it away and print it out again. And if you ruin the original, you buy an envelope for €5, then I think that would be not so good for your money.
That's a good point, because often vintage ephemera is quite pricey. So to be able to scan it and use it multiple times is very cost effective indeed. And I love the fact that you can share it with other people. So that's such a fun aspect.
Yeah.
So ladies, I think that's it for today. We're running over an hour of recording time. Thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure to have you both here today. Thank you for all your wisdom.
Thank you for having us.
I'm so happy to have had you here, Margarete, and Luise as well, of course. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Any last words, Luise?
Why always me saying the last?
I asked both of you.
So I have a last question for you.
See, I knew it. See, I knew you had something else.
Yeah, because I realized that your name goes around in the German community as well, and that there are many people from Germany, Austria, and, for example, Switzerland or wherever they are speaking German, and they're watching this podcast. I want to know if you are satisfied with this format of video. I mean, you have some experience now. Will you continue this? Is that a good idea? Do you realize that you have people all over the world? I mean, not only the English-speaking people, but also German-speaking ones and that stuff. Are you realizing that?
Probably not to the extent that it's happening, but yeah, I think it's a really fun format. I think it's fun to not only to hear the voices like you normally would in a podcast, but you can actually see the people talking. So I think our viewers appreciate that as well as, having the feeling that they see that we are real people and we are just like everyone else. We are no different from people who are not making the videos. We're just making the videos, but we have the same struggles as they all do. And so I'm hoping that we are able to show that through these podcasts. So I think the format is fun. I hope that the viewers agree, and I hope they're getting some feedback and information that they wouldn't otherwise get through the regular kind of videos that we do where we just craft,
Right.
I think you're much too shy about this answer, Barbara. I think Margarete and we have to tell you in the name of the whole community that this is a very good idea. I've told in the first episode where you have invited me that this was a wonderful idea, and I'm now more sure than ever that this is one of the best ideas you've ever had. I hear so many positive voices about this podcast. Don't put this halt Scheffel. Tu dein Lied unter den Scheffel. Bitte. So. I wanted to say that here, that it goes online because she isn't believing that.
Wow.
She needs some letters and some nice comments of the viewers. So write something nice.
I get so many nice comments. No,
but obviously you need more so that you realize that here and here.
Okay, now I'm speechless. It's time to end this podcast.
Don't ask me about last words.
Yeah, I will remember not to do that next time. So please find all the links of the other channels and shops down in the description box. Go check them out if you haven't already. And otherwise, I hope to see you back here in the next episode. Love you guys.
Bye.